I'm Kristen.
I'm Kevin.
And we have friends with us again today. So exciting. Guys, introduce yourself.
So I'm Megan.
Yeah, I'm Mike.
And you guys know each other?
A little bit.
Yeah. Some would say.
Some would say.
Yeah, we've been married for a little over 7 years now.
Slightly over 7 years. We just had our 7th year anniversary.
In November.
Yep.
Nice. Where'd you go?
Where did we go?
Yeah, did you do, or what'd you do?
No, we didn't really do anything.
Okay.
So we were going to do something, but we decided to pair a family vacation with my work trip in Atlanta.
Yes.
Oh,
So
nice.
we drove down with all 3 kids. It was an experience. It was better than the last time, though.
How old are your kids, Ken?
9, 4, and 3. Our middle kid will be 5 in 2 weeks.
Couple weeks.
Yeah. But we went down and we had a good time. I spent 4 out of the 5 first days in Atlanta, and Mike's brother lives about 45 minutes south of there.
Oh, nice.
So the kids and her stayed with them, and then I went down there the last couple days, Thursday through Saturday, and we had Thanksgiving, so that was cool because it was the week before Thanksgiving.
Oh, nice.
And then the week of Thanksgiving, we drove to the Ark.
Oh, nice.
Oh, how fun.
And
That was a lot of fun.
That was so much fun.
Everyone who
So much
goes says, like, that's a must-see.
It was so cool.
Mhm.
It was cool to put, because they design it the size of the ark in the Bible.
Yes.
So it's so cool to, like, because you hear the stories like, yeah, Noah had this boat with these animals. And
Right.
Like, yeah, there was a ton of animals, but like you look at the ark and you're like, wow, he
Yeah.
built
Good
that?
perspective.
Perspective, exactly. That it throws a whole new perspective on it.
Yeah.
And I haven't been suggesting it to anybody who has little kids anymore because I could have spent 8 to 10 hours in there by myself. And if Amelia was probably Riley's age, maybe a little bit younger, maybe the youngest being 7, I think we would have had more time to really just take it all in.
It's
because
crazy.
we zoomed through it in about 3.5 hours.
Yeah.
So maybe that's a good couples trip.
Yes, that would be a great couple.
Wouldn't that be fun?
Yeah.
Maybe when we go to Cincinnati.
Yeah.
It's not too far from there.
I know.
Yeah,
We've
stop in
heard.
Kentucky.
Okay.
Yeah, we're headed back in April.
Yeah. So when you guys got married in November, did you have a big wedding? Was it a big planned event?
No.
No, so very similar to what we were talking about earlier. You could start off.
Okay, I like
How we
telling our
met.
story.
Yeah.
All right. So this is the first part of the story.
Yes.
To get
But
to know
if
you.
you feel that you need to back up before the wedding, feel free.
We definitely need to back up before the wedding.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%.
So I was previously married. We co-parent my 9-year-old with my ex-husband.
Okay.
So I told him Christmas Eve of 2016. Actually, it was December 23rd of 2016. Like, I was done. I wanted a divorce. Like, it wasn't working. It wasn't great. We were not believers. And I texted my girlfriends, Juanita and Pam. I was like, I told him. And they're like, what are you doing? I was like, well, I'm going to sleep on the couch now until we figure it. She's like, absolutely not. We're going out. And I was like, no. Like, I don't want to do that. Like, no. She's like, we're going to go out. We're going to hang out. So we ended up going out to Slick Willie's.
Okay.
And I snapped a picture and was like, anybody know where there's any karaoke? And one of, I won't get into that whole
Yeah.
like that's
yeah,
a
that one
twisted
doesn't-
web. So one girl is like, oh, you got to come out. They're doing karaoke at TC Wheeler's. And so we're like, oh yeah, let's go to TC Wheeler's because there was a person there that I needed to meet. And when I got there, I saw Mike. And
And I was a frequent there at this moment.
yeah.
So-
yeah. So I like noticed him and I asked this girl, I was like, hey, like the next day I was like, hey, who was that guy? And she was like, oh, Mike. And I was like, yeah, Mike. And
Wait, did you talk to him that first
a
night?
little bit.
A little bit.
I was shy.
Okay.
A little bit. I was told that she was married.
Yeah.
So I was being respectful.
Which she was.
And she was. Yeah. So I was being respectful and I backed off
But
for a little while.
there was a girl who kind of had a thing for Mike, and that was who I asked about Mike. She's like, back off, get your own mic. I was like, okay, like you guys got a thing, like whatever.
Get your own mic.
Get your own
Get
mic.
your own mic.
Get your own mic.
Yeah. But she knew why we were out because I had told her, like, I just told my ex-husband I wanted a divorce, blah, blah, blah. She told him I was happily married. So, like, there was this, yes. But of course I did the girl
See
thing.
what women do.
Right? Yeah. Yeah. It was wild. So I did did, the girl thing. And when I got home that night before I had talked to my friend, I stalked him on social media. I was
of course.
Yeah, like that guy's like, he's hot. I like to look at him. And I had heard that from our friend. He had heard whatever. So like I didn't do anything with it. I didn't even friend request him. Then in February, he just happened to show up on my suggested friends on Facebook. And I eventually learned the story of what was like happening with all of that. And my girlfriend Kate, she was like, you need to add him on Facebook. I was like, no, that's way too bold for me. I'm not ready to step back in the dating pool yet. Like my divorce was just in the process. It hadn't even been finalized yet. Like we started the divorce proceedings in January, but it's like late February. We're moving nowhere in New York State. So she's like, you need to add him. I was like, no. She's like, you're ready, do it. And I was like, okay. So I added him. And almost immediately he added me back. And I was like, okay. She's like, message him. I was like, no.
Yeah, right.
Adding
is
absolutely
one thing.
not. Yeah. But I did. So I ended up messaging him. And I was like, I don't know if you remember me, but like we met at TC Wheeler's. And he's like, of course I do. How could I ever forget those beautiful baby blues?
Oh,
I had a lot of game back
smooth,
then.
right away.
Back then. I don't know if I still have it.
You still got game.
Cool.
So we like went back and forth, and then I dropped because I had game, maybe a little. I dropped a sweet line and was just like, "Well, I think you owe me a ride on your motorcycle because you didn't ask for my number that night." And he's like, "Done." So he was on.
So I invited her out the very next night.
Yeah. Yep.
I was like, well, let's go get coffee then.
And we did.
Great.
And I was working a 6 to 2 shift at the Air Force Base. But we stayed out till
2 o'clock in the morning, probably.
It was late.
Wow.
Yeah.
At Tim Hortons.
At Tim Hortons in Tonawanda.
Yep. What is that? Erie and Niagara Falls Boulevard.
Yep.
The one right at the corner there.
Yep. Yeah. And he still talks about that. Because he said all these things that like my face would turn red. And
Oh, wow.
I mean, I feel like you're blushing a little bit right now.
So I still do have it. All right, cool.
You still got game.
A little bit. So that was in February of 2017. My divorce was finalized in March of 17. We started dating in April. We got engaged in June, right? And then we were married in November of 17. So it was like when you know,
Step,
you
step.
know.
Yeah.
But
Now,
then
did you go out on the motorcycle in February?
No,
we waited on that.
Okay.
I would never.
I rode with a bunch, so I did a lot of riding back then.
Yeah.
So the very first, one of the very first rides is the polar ride of the year, and it is very cold, so I did not invite
Sounds
her on that
awful.
one. But
didn't
I ride throughout the year. I've gone when it was snowing before. It's a passion for me. But
he said the day that he proposed to me, he like took the motorcycle out because he like just needed to decompress.
I needed some fresh air.
That's cool.
I needed some therapy.
Yeah, some wind therapy.
Yep.
Oh, wait, that was June, though, right?
Yeah, that was
Okay,
June.
so-
So it was warm.
Not polar.
No, it wasn't polar.
No, it was not polar, no. But yeah, so then we got married in November 17. We just went to Hamburg Town Hall.
Did anyone think you were crazy?
Oh my gosh, yes. Especially like my family had a lot to say because I
Her
just
dad
got
was not for it.
Yeah.
Not at first. He's
Not
like,
a fan.
Just give it time. And then I proposed to her that night, and he was like, bro, I said give it time.
And Mike's like, I did 6 hours.
Yeah, we had time.
You didn't tell the time frame.
Yeah, you said time, so I waited. But yeah, so they had a lot of concerns, understandably so. I had just gotten out of a divorce and like fresh out of a divorce.
How long were you married for your first marriage?
We got married in 14 and we were divorced by 16.
Oh, so
not
it was
very
rather
long.
quick. Anyway.
Yeah, it was not very long. So we married in November of 17 and then January of 18 I shipped out to Afghanistan. So 2 months, not even 6-7 weeks after we were married, we were geographically separated, and Mike he always calls it, he was thrown into Insta Dad. Because we have a really great relationship with my ex-husband. So while I was gone, my daughter was 1.5 years. So he co-parented with my ex-husband and his girlfriend at the time. And then about 6 weeks after I came home, my ex-husband went to Qatar. So then we co-parented with my ex-husband's girlfriend. So Riley could still see everybody and make it as normal as possible, even though, her parents were gone.
Got it.
So, yeah, so it's for the first almost 6 months of our marriage, we were geographically separated by a half a day.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wow.
And you were a brand new dad.
Brand new.
I was. My only goal was to not let her die.
Yes.
I was
no,
like,
those
as
are
long as she's hot dogs, macaroni and cheese, as much as you want, kid, just don't Don't
funny.
make me have a conversation
But
I'm not
wait.
ready to have.
But wait,
Yeah.
there was a moment. So I worked at the Airvac Squadron, and it's like medical personnel. So one day I'm sitting at a round table doing something. So Mike was on speaker, and the critical care transport team was there. And Mike starts telling this story about how Riley started choking on her mac and cheese. So he went in to scoop it out with his finger, and
Got
like
it.
everybody's looking, because I was like, "But you don't do that. You don't scoop it out." And all these nurses and doctors are like, "He did what?"
Mm-hmm.
That's funny.
Listen.
Wait, don't they tell you scoop? Like, is
So
there some kind
that
of a scoop thing?
Yes, that used to be a thing.
Oh.
It's not a thing anymore. But if you can
'Cause you can
physically
just push
see
it
it,
I'm very old.
yeah, if
so-
you can see it, then you should be able to swoop it out. I have combat background in the military, and I was like, yeah, get it
So
out.
you weren't all wrong.
No, I don't think
He
I
would-
was.
You just didn't have the most up to date information.
Right. It still worked. She's still
So
here.
what is
She's
the most
still
up to date now? Are we supposed to
No
I
finger
whack
swoop.
them or
No.
something?
Yeah.
Or?
Yeah, you're supposed
Yes,
to like
turn
flip
'em
them and
over
hit their
and-
chicken
Yeah.
wings.
It's like the seizure thing. Like that's when our daughter started with the seizures. They're like, oh yeah, like do I need to? No, just turn her over. I'm like,
Yeah.
Mhm.
But that's a
Like-
tongue thing. That's not
Right.
yeah,
so
but
that
same thing.
the
You still wanna
macaroni and
just
cheese
flip 'em
comes out of
around
them.
and-
Oh,
Okay.
hi,
Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I might have swooped too. So
It's-
sorry.
Yeah, you got to do what you do in the moment, right?
Yeah, she is still here.
And
Yeah.
she's alive.
She's
there.
alive and kicking.
She's kicking.
She's
That's funny.
Because I'm guessing she's the 9.
Yeah.
the 9.
So-
She is also ADHD, hyperactive inattentive subtype. So
Yep.
she's got lots of energy.
It's all those hot dogs and sugar.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. See, it's your fault.
It'll circle back.
It
Don't
will.
worry.
It always does.
You just got to hold on tight for the teenage years.
That's what we've been doing. That's what I've been doing.
Yeah,
I just keep
I
going
always say Riley has such a bold personality, and she speaks about the Lord so like boldly, and I love that. I'm like, if I can just survive raising this kid,
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
girlfriend's gonna be CEO or like first woman president. Like she's doing things.
Doing things.
Yeah.
We knew that about Skylar too.
Yeah,
Our oldest was a high needs baby.
Mm.
I had that nursery all planned out and decorated. She didn't sleep one night in it. Not one night. You couldn't put her down. She'd scream. And when she screamed,
First year.
you thought she was going to die. Like, you would have been really scared. Like, you thought she was going to die. And so I had to, like, sleep holding her. It was
Oh,
terrible.
goodness.
It was so hard. I couldn't even shower unless I had her in a swing with a vacuum cleaner running right next to her for that noise. And then I got maybe 4 minutes of no screaming out of her.
Oh,
I was in and
goodness.
out. It was terrible. I don't even know why we had other children. But then I did read a book, it's true, that said high needs babies will turn into extremely motivated, determined teenagers, hard-willed, like
Hard-headed.
very
Just keep saying it, Kev. Just keep saying it.
adults. And, she wouldn't accept anything less than an A all through high school. She'd argue her way into everything. She's in law school and killing it. Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be cool. At 7, Riley told me that God told her she's going to be a missionary. So.
There you go.
Oh, amen.
Mhm.
Yeah, so that'll be to pray for my mama heart for that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you're prepared. You've got many years to prepare for that.
Many years. Yeah,
Too bad they go by so quick.
I know.
No doubt.
They do.
Mhm, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So kept the baby alive.
Kept the baby alive. Yep. And then I came home in May of 2018. And then we just kind of, survived the rest of that year trying to manage Riley and her dad being, geographically separated again. And then we planned a trip in April of 19 to Mexico where we did like a ceremonial wedding. That was super fun.
We can back up a little bit.
Oh,
As soon as you got home from Afghanistan, you were like, "Well, what do you think about?"
Listen.
She goes, "Well, what do you think about going back to church or going to church?"
Yeah.
Actually,
Okay. Going
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. I
Yep.
forgot. That's a big
Yep.
part of the story. Good grief.
So,
It's okay. It's
I grew up
Get
Roman
both.
Catholic
okay.
all the way up through really my military career. Because if you're not believing in anything, in the military, it's something different. But I was like, cool. Where do you want to go? And she's like, well, I used to go to the chapel.
Mhm.
And I'm like, okay, well, I've literally never been there.
Mhm.
So we went,
Mhm.
and
He called it concert church.
yeah,
Yeah.
I had an experience.
That's great. Yes.
It
You
was-
did.
Awesome.
It was something.
I
And
asked him, I was like, what did you think? He's
Yeah.
like, it was loud.
Yeah, I'm like, this is concert church. This is kind of neat.
It's so funny you say that. So, because you were definitely new chapel, new experience.
Mm-hmm.
And when I took Kevin to the chapel, when he first
It was the old chapel.
went to church, it was
It was the old chapel. They had him moved to
in Williamsville.
Yep, on North Forest.
North Forest.
Yep,
We got
I went there.
We got baptized up. You remember how the baptismal was like up, and they changed the light. And
Yep.
It went red. And then like it was scary. Like when you went under, it was red, and then when you came up, it was.
Yeah, we were there right as it was out.
Transitioning.
And Jerry had just come.
Yep,
so it was
same.
right in that
But the choir, because you said concert, the choir had the old school robe still.
It was Russell.
Yes.
It
was Russell. Yeah. Yep. And it was like a good happy medium because that's what he wanted, like expected at a church.
Yeah, it was like Chris Tomlin,
Okay.
Matt Red. It was like that, contemporary Christian.
Because we went to the
It was
tab,
loud, not like.
but that was
Brandon
too
Lake
much.
elevation.
Yeah. Remember?
Yeah. Oh, the tab was a different.
No, I just mean it was like
It was a different
a
kind
lot.
of much.
Like there were people speaking other languages that you didn't know, and there was stuff happening, and
Yeah.
there was a lot.
Yeah.
So then
the chapel,
that was
it was, and I'm like, oh, I don't know about all this.
Mm-hmm.
But then I think after we were baptized and after really got a hold of, then because I remember when we were there, I'd be like, oh, let's go 20 minutes late so we miss all that. We did.
Yeah.
But then there was
remember
that thing that clicked, and that was when Benji and Jenna were there after Russell had left, and Benji and Jenna, and I'm like, oh, I like this, and it got to be
concert church.
Concert church. And it really was, and then I really fell in love with that part too. I mean, that's one of those, you either like it or you don't.
Yeah.
And
But I just understand that it can be a lot for someone brand new who isn't a believer, right? Like walk in, like, what is going on?
I was into the sit, stand, kneel, repeat after me, and that was it. And then I came to this, and I'm like, whoa, okay. Well, I guess this is a concert I don't have to pay for every week. That's kind of neat. That's kind of cool. Let's see what comes out of this.
Free music.
Yeah.
So I was actually saved while I was in Afghanistan. There was one of the girls, Amanda, that worked in the same office as me. She was a Christian, and it was really cool because she would gently challenge some. So I was born and raised Roman Catholic, so I had a lot of really difficult beliefs of who God is, or who he was, not who he is. And she really gently challenged me, and I will never forget. I was praying for safety. So I left my brand new husband, I left my 1.5-year-old, and I was in Afghanistan. So I was just praying for safety. And there was one day in particular that I was like, God, please just get me, if you're real, get me home safe. And there was one day, so in Afghanistan, we would get things that was called IDFs, or indirect fire. So basically, the people who lived around the installation would just set missiles near dry ice, and then they'd leave. And many, many hours later, eventually they would just go off. So that's why I was indirect. Well, there was one day that indirect fire went off, and they would either hit ground, which would do minimal damage to the ground, or there was a counter rocket artillery mortar system that would shoot it down in the sky. So that was one of the two ways. But regardless, it would either explode as it impacted, or it would explode in the air because it got shot down. There was one rocket that came over. Now, I worked with the Aerovac squadron, so we were on the flight line because they were basically the ambulance in the sky, those people, and I did their paperwork. I was ground support. I didn't do any of that. Okay. But a rocket came over one day and actually hit the fire station, which was 2 doors down from us, and never exploded. And it was in that moment I was like, holy crap, he's real.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, you kept me safe. Thank you, Jesus. And that was probably about 2 weeks before I was headed home. And then I went home and I was like, God, thank you for keeping me safe. I promise I'll go back to church. And that's when I told Mike, I'm like, I think we need to go back to church. So we went back to church. Well, I went back to church because I was raised Roman Catholic. And then as a teen, we started going to the chapel in Williamsville. And then I kind of got away from it. And I would go back when things would get rough, whatever. So I told him, I was like, I really only know the chapel. I don't want to go back to a Roman Catholic church. So we went to the chapel. I was on fire for the Lord, on fire.
Too much
for
me.
I was
at the time.
I just wanted him to feel it. I'm like, gosh, the Lord is so good. You need to experience this. And one day he was like, Megan, I'm gonna get there, but you need to stop. And I was like, okay, like I'll stop. And he joined a Bible study with our brother-in-law, and that was really great. But so I was baptized on Veterans Day in November of 2018. Yep. And then the following year, while we were in Mexico, our brother-in-law was telling Mike about Fight Club.
Oh,
and kickoff was the Friday that we were in Mexico. So he's like, I'm missing like kickoff. And our brother-in-law like, dude, like you should do it. It sounds really cool.
Yeah.
We had the final conversation at the gym in the morning because it was right before
in Mexico.
Yeah, in Mexico, right before the ceremony. The girls were all getting ready, and what do the guys have to do but nothing?
Yeah,
and
we got to do our hair and our makeup.
Yeah, I got a haircut before, and I was good to go. So we're at the gym working out, and he's like, "Dude, just try it. Just try it. What I mean, like, what do you have to lose?
What do you have to lose?"
Right. So I'm like, okay, whatever. I'll try it. Sounds good.
So, and he did it, and he graduated, and then Mike got baptized at the end of Fight Club.
Yep.
So cool.
Yep.
That was 2019?
That was 2019.
2019, yep.
That was the year you went.
I'm trying to think if that was the one I went to, because they had it at the Apex, and they had all the torches going in.
That's
and
exactly what it was.
They baptized him in like a 3-foot tin pool. I was like, you're tall.
You didn't do the whole thing, right?
Yeah, life was, because that's when Tabby was.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but no. I mean, I don't know if that's the one I was at, but yeah.
I would assume that is the one because we did the whole stage thing. We came down, and I was so confused on how this worked. So I had actually asked 2 separate pastors from 2 different churches that were speaking into me the entire time. I was like, is this like a cool thing? Like, can you both do this? Or is this like a rivalry thing? And like, no, it's one or the other.
Yeah.
And both of them were like, are you serious?
There's only one God.
Yeah, I'm serious about this. Like, I need to know.
That's awesome.
Fight Club.
They both ended up.
I have such an incredible soft spot for Fight Club because actually week 2 of Fight Club, we actually walked through a miscarriage, and I had never experienced that before. Mike had obviously never experienced that before.
No idea.
And the material was so perfectly, like God timed that material so perfectly that Mike walked us through that season in such an incredible way that it was just like, so I have such a soft spot for Fight Club because it was such a blessing to our marriage. Like, it's so weird to say something like a miscarriage brought me closer to my husband. Like, but it really did bring us closer together.
But wait, there's more.
There is more.
But
more.
Just to interrupt real quick, it's funny you say that because I am a big proponent of that. If there's a man's ministry that speak to men, strengthen men, and give them the ability to lead, the women, the children, and everyone in the church will benefit from that.
100%, yes.
Yeah, that's a Driscoll thing. Fix the men, you fix it all.
Yep.
100%.
Because, you know,
so
the statistics and everything as far as kids, with the dads engaged in church, the numbers are amazing.
I listen to him a lot too.
Yeah,
Fight Club.
Stuff.
I even listen to him.
That was
great.
good stuff. I mean, it is, and like just bringing the men together and doing that and like normalizing it that hey, this is okay,
right?
You know, and the things you feel, and you know, because so many times today, and we talk about that a lot, that it's not okay to be a man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You want to wrap a man into this box that's like the same emotions as her, and my emotions and feelings are not the same as hers.
Preach.
We complement each other and stuff, but they're not the same. And it's like,
and sometimes I have them and you don't.
Yes, absolutely. Sometimes I do not have emotions.
Right.
So, but yeah, I mean, that's awesome. That is all, and a lot of times that what is our greatest misery, it really does bring us closer. And God uses those things.
So, back to your regularly scheduled programming. Go ahead.
So then we were saved. I was baptized, and he was baptized, and then we were brand new baby believers and just kind of tried it. That's when we joined. I don't know if you guys know the Scagliones. So we joined their life group at the chapel. And actually, when I suggested to Mike, I was like, Mike, what do you think about joining like a married couples group? He's like, do you think we have issues? And I was like, no, I think we need, I think we need people to come around us. And he's like, are you sure we don't have problems? I mean, don't we all? But no, I feel like we're okay.
Yes, we all do.
Yes, yeah. So we joined their life group, and we were so blessed because really that was like our first year of marriage, even though it was like the tail end of our first year. And we were so blessed that we did a study called Love and Respect by Emerson. It was...
We're doing that now.
Oh, you are?
Yes.
Oh, I love that
I
study.
know somebody in your group, and he said it. I was like, just pay attention. There's so many good things in here.
So many good
Okay,
things.
that's a tangent. We'll talk about it later. I already know.
Yeah.
I already know.
No,
I already
that is like one of those, like those, just the word.
Yeah.
The respect word, and then it's just. It's
You
a
know what
hot
we should
button.
do? We should table this. We should have them back, and we should do a love and respect chat if
Oh,
you
heck
guys
yeah.
want to come back one day. And that'll be a topic because I think we could really dive into some of those.
Yeah.
Oh,
You know, I think this would be good. It would be fun to dig
yeah,
in.
I'd be
There's
down.
so much.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
much.
we
So you
love
did
that
love
study.
and respect.
So we did Love and Respect, and it was so great. And then we just kind of like went on living. We had 2 more children. Well, we had 2 children together.
Mhm.
Added 2 to our family.
Yeah.
Isaiah first. We actually, we found out on May 4th that I was officially like no longer pregnant, and May 30th I had a positive pregnancy test. Who is now Isaiah?
Oh my
Aw.
So like
goodness.
that was
Yep.
so amazing. I was it was
That's
a little
crazy.
bit of a shock though because we weren't trying.
Like that's God. Like I just
Oh my
wanna
gosh,
cr-
yes.
like I have
100%.
goosebumps. That's
Mhm.
crazy. Our
It was
daughter's
100%.
birthday is May 4th too.
Oh
That's
no way!
great.
Oh, I love that. But yeah, so it was 100% a God thing, and I was panicked because I was in grad school. So the first baby that we lost was my perfectly timed baby because I was going to be due during
Mhm.
winter break, and I wouldn't have to take any time. I was in grad school for social work at the time, so I'm like, I don't have to take any time off my internship or my like classes. Like it'll be fine. And then we lost that baby, and then found out I was pregnant. I walked into the bedroom. I was like, what are we going to do with this?
Yeah. It was literally the test.
That's
What are
funny.
we gonna do with this? And I'm like,
That's funny.
have a kid? I don't know.
Like what does that question even
Yeah,
mean?
that's
Can
what-
we define your question?
Yeah, but Isaiah was like he is our little blessing. He's our only boy. And then Amelia, we were actually coincidentally between. So we were supposed to have 4, but we won't get into that. So we were planning on having
You
a
do
third.
have 4. You just have one that you'll meet.
That's true.
on the
One
other
day I
side.
have to
See?
wait.
There you go.
100%.
I like that.
You do have.
So we were planning on having a third. So we, we had Isaiah in 2020, 6 weeks before the world shut down. And then, yeah.
Mhm.
And then 9 months postpartum, I found out we were pregnant with Amelia. And she was planned, but like not.
Yeah.
We were planning on looking for a place to live in the summer, like a bigger place because we had a smaller 2-3 bedroom house. So we were planning on looking for a house in the summer of 21 and starting for our third in the fall of 21.
Mhm.
We had Amelia July of 2021. So God's plan was way
Yep.
better, but he gifted us an incredible, like perfect house, like in the housing market that was 2021.
Oh yeah.
It was awful, but we didn't even have to go to market. Like we found a house that was a burnout that this guy was just like, company was remodeling. We put an offer on it before it even like hit the market, and he accepted it, like didn't counter nothing. And
So back up a
Wow.
little bit is we started looking for a house. Buddy of ours.
yeah,
Um,
James.
Yep, he's a realtor, and he forever will be. He goes, "Hey, I got this place in Boston. Is that too far for you guys?"
I said yes.
Yeah, and I said, "Well,
Well, because where were you living? Because
in Hamburg,
Hamburg.
10
Oh.
minutes closer."
okay,
Yeah.
But I heard Boston and was like,
Oh.
that's too south. Like that's
Yeah.
too south.
Right.
Well, see, when you were telling your story, I'm thinking, okay, well, we're in Tonawanda, we're all and you're in Boston. I'm like,
Mhm.
that, how did that? So thank you. Now
Yeah.
now we know.
Yep.
In my mind, I'm like, TCU, that's in Tonawanda.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
Tonawanda. So
Yeah.
yeah,
so
you guys
Niagara
maybe should be
Boulevard.
Northtowners.
But, yeah.
I grew up in the North Town.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
okay.
She did not. She grew up in the South Towns.
Yeah.
Um,
I grew up in West Seneca.
I
mhm.
grew up in West Seneca too.
Oh, nice.
I grew
So
up in Virginia.
He grew up way south.
You can hear it.
Real
You can
South
hear
towns.
it.
Yeah.
Real South Towns. I dig it.
So he goes, I got this place in Boston. Is that too far? She says yes. I get the address, and I go, hey, I've been a plumber for a long time. I go, I put a bid in to do the plumbing at this house. I said, I know exactly what house it is.
Uh-huh.
I said, it's a nice spot. Like, let's go look at it. So she could look at it. So we looked at 2 almost identical homes,
Mm-hmm.
both being rebuilt.
Mm-hmm.
The one, she walks in, she's like, yeah, I don't like it.
I didn't like anything
Okay.
about it. The
All right.
driveway was weird too. Like you would pull in the driveway and like it was long,
Yeah.
but the house was here. The driveway went like this. So your car parked in the backyard. I'm like, no,
Yeah. So then
no.
a week later, we go to the one in Boston. it's really not much different. And she's like, I love it. I'm like, all right, cool.
Are you parking in your backyard?
No, I'm not. See, exactly. See, she gets it. Also,
things.
Also, when we did put a bid on the house, it was all studs, and also, it had this beautiful big tree in the backyard, and I've always wanted there's a swing.
Is it a weeping willow tree?
No, it's not a weeping willow. I always
wanted a weeping willow tree in my yard.
I do love weeping willows, but no, it's just a big. Mike hates it because when the wind happens, it takes down our gutters, but it's okay.
Almost took down a portion of the house, and then it did take down a portion of my neighbor's fence, and He's amazing.
So cool.
Oh,
yeah,
good.
He's just like, oh, thanks for helping me clean this up. I'm like, dude, it's my tree. Yeah, of course I'm going to clean this up.
Yeah. So that house was definitely a gift from God because there was so many reasons why we shouldn't have got it. So then we just kind of went on living. Yep. The kids got older. They started doing things. And that's really where the biggest part of our testimony starts is when we got complacent.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
We stopped taking care of each other and we started taking care of the kids alone. Yes. And that's it.
Yeah.
Just work, kids. Yep.
And kids aren't a bad thing.
No.
And taking care of them is not a bad thing.
It's a pretty good idea, I think.
These are all good things. It's when, and last week we spoke about priorities. Yep. It's when your priorities get out of order.
Yes.
Then it becomes a bad thing.
Yeah. And that's exactly what it was. It got to the point where so I was working at the time. I would come home from work. He would come home from work. We would get dinner. The kids would go to bed. And then we have a sectional. I would sit on one side. He'd sit on the other. The TV would be on and we'd be scrolling through our phones. 9:30 would hit, be like, hey, you want to go to bed? I'd be like, yep, let's go to bed. And then there were this might be a little too personal, but I'm going to share it anyway.
We can be personal.
So it got to a point where I was so tired and so especially with the kids so tired and so touched out that I'd be like, oh, please don't let him try and engage any kind of sex with me.
And I'm a touchy guy.
He is. Physical touch is his love language. My love language is quality time.
My love language is acts of service.
Those are mine too. Hers is
acts of service. Yeah, it's polar opposite.
Yeah.
But so I got to that point, and then there were even nights where he would try and initiate, and I was just like, how many times have I said no to him? Can I get away with it once more before it starts to impact us? So that's really where
and it is hard when the kids are young, and we do talk about seasons.
Yes,
because especially breastfeeding moms, you get very touched out.
Yes,
and when they're young and close, we can understand those seasons.
We can?
No, I just mean the general. We can understand it. So, yes. Yeah. So that's why it's over important.
Yes.
To keep the priorities.
And we talked about that, especially when I deployed. We bought the 5 Love Languages book for military couples. Oh. And we read it alongside each other while I was gone and he was gone. So we knew each other's love languages. I was just I knew if I would have gone to the other side of the couch to cuddle with him, that would have meant so much in the means of physical touch for him. And I just was I'm touched out. I really I don't feel like it today. Okay, let's just go to bed. So we just got into a real complacent rhythm.
Right. And the more you do that, the more that becomes normal.
Yes.
Yeah. Right. And it just.
Yes. Yeah. And we literally just started to grow apart.
Yep.
Yeah. So, do you want to talk about the next part, or do you want me to talk about it? I don't mind talking about it. I am a talker.
Mike, you can start, and then if you need help, do we'll do a special sign.
Kick the chair a little bit.
Kick the chair. I don't know. Think of a sign.
Throw the bat symbol.
Go
I
know.
So
mess.
So we got complacent, and I started wandering, just in general. So looking around, whatever, not really looking.
Were you working full time?
Yes.
And were you working full time?
Part time.
Part time. Okay.
Yeah.
Just go.
So it wasn't. I wasn't looking, but I didn't not look at opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, okay, cool. You know, I still got it. You know, cool, whatever. So an opportunity that started out super innocent, just a text here and there, whatever, quickly turned into something a lot more. Nothing where, you know, we got together or anything like that, but it was, it could have gotten there. It absolutely could have gotten
close.
there. But that's when, I'm in a men's group, and I was one of the original members, and that was really good. And at that point, in my mind, I was like, things are going well. You know, I'm trying to branch off and do my own thing with this men's group, and that was in my mind.
Right.
It wasn't in anybody else's mind but my mind. And I'm like, I got this. And that's ultimately what failed it, was I got this. So, so it spiraled very quickly. And that Wednesday night, I was like, I need to talk to Pastor Rich. Like, I need to, like, it's going too fast. Something is wrong here. And I turned around and Rich left. And I'm like, okay, well, I got this.
Yep. More I got this.
And I didn't have it. And I went to shower the next morning, and Meg grabbed my phone, went through it, and I came out to a very, very upset woman in my room. Rightfully so.
That's why I like saying that part of the story. I really feel like God's sovereignty stepped in that moment, because there was only one other time I went through his phone, and it was to find names because I was throwing him a surprise birthday party. So I needed numbers of his friends. Right. Other than that, in the 7 year, well, at that time it was 5. In the 5 years that we had been together, almost 5, it was during our 5th year. I'd never gone through his phone, but something that morning was like tugging, like, you need to look in his phone. And I was like, I'm going to do this while he's in the shower, and I'm going to find nothing, and I'm going to have to confess to him. And I don't even know what is like pulling me to like want to have to go through his phone. And when I find nothing, because I'll never forget, and I mentioned this to him on the way over, when we first started dating, one of his oldest friends, Colin, has known Mike since
like
many
30 years.
Yeah, many years back. One of the things that Colin had said to me is like, listen, Mike, because he's got a colorful past. And he's like, you know, Mike might be a little rough around the edges, but one thing you don't have to worry about, he's a golden retriever. That was what Colin used. He's a golden retriever. He will never stray. So I'm like, why am I even doing this? Like, what is it? And it was really just like God tugging at my heart to like, I think, like, help pull him out, because he had gone into group early to try and seek Rich out, and then there was just, you know, some bumps in the road, whatever, and that God just like saw that like he wanted out, but he just needed help. So I feel like that's when God's sovereignty stepped in, and I went through the phone and I saw everything, and immediately like knees hit the floor, was like, please, like, I want like whatever you need. And I was like, okay. I was like, so then he reached out to his men's group and was like, guys, I messed up, like, please pray for my marriage. He called Rich and like had a meeting with Rich that same day, and him and Rich like
and for those who don't know, that's a pastor at church.
Oh yeah, sorry.
No, I just want to jump in.
Yeah. So he reached out to Rich, had a meeting with Rich that same day, and then he came to my office at work. I had canceled all my appointments that day. So I had like he had come and we just like talked. I was like, okay, it's like, this is what we're going to do. Like, we're going to do counseling. We're going to get through this. God had his hand all over that season. Because he moved me, because immediately I was like, who is this person? Like, this is not my husband. This is not what I like knew of him. Like, and super quick, God was just like, no, you're right, that's not your husband, but this was a hole in your fence. And I was like immediately like reminded of all the ways that I helped foster this hole. Even though, you know, that like the opportunity like perfectly presented itself in a time when Mike was really struggling in a way that I didn't understand. I always thought like our communication was great until this season. But he was just like, I was feeling like I was struggling in so many of these other areas, like parenting and work and all of these other things. And I didn't know that was going on for him. And he's like, and this opportunity was just easy. There was no responsibility to it. And like, it was just easy for me. And yeah, we just like moved through that, and God I think we went to counseling for less than 6 months. God moved us into, like, he immediately was like, Meagan, no, like, this is not your husband. This is just something that happened. And there was a hole in your fence, and it's an opportunity to learn and grow and, like, be aware that this is something that is a hole in your fence. But this isn't Mike. This is just something that happened. And he moved us through that season, I think, so quickly. And it goes back to, like, what I said about the miscarriage. It's so weird when I talk about this with other people, and to say that, like, our marriage almost needed it.
Yeah.
It was a reset button that we needed. Yeah. So
it was a reset all around with the men's group, with everything. I wasn't really opening up to anybody.
Mm-hmm. You're a guy.
Right.
Yeah.
I have this cool superpower that I'm sure you have too, where you can just lock things away and then they never come back.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But they do.
Yeah.
Well, and that was the one thing that Mike said too. He's like, when all of this was going on, I was just like, what was going on? He's like, I had it. And I was pulling further from God. Like, I wasn't leaning into him, and, like, God helped me, like, work through feeling like I'm struggling in this area and struggling in this area, like, help me through. Like, instead it was like, no, I've got this. Cause that was kind of Mike's mentality growing up, was he forever. Yeah. He had like I said, a very colorful, childhood where he had to rely on himself. So when the going got tough, he did what he knew. So we had to, I quickly, and this is the other thing that, like, Mike and I talked about that was weird. I quickly moved into a place of, like, okay, like, divorce is off the table because this is not who you are.
That's good.
Yeah, and we were going to we were looking for a counselor. I was like, I want to find a counselor that's a biblical counselor, because I was super afraid that if we went to a secular therapist, which I'm a therapist by trade, so I don't believe that, there's a good and bad whatever, but I was afraid that if we went to a secular counselor, they were going to look at me and be like, oh, she's a Christian, she thinks she has to stay. And, like, yeah, sure, I had biblical ground for a divorce, but, like, I didn't want that. I wanted to stay. I wanted to work through this because I know who he is, and I knew that this wasn't him. So I was like, we need to find a Christian counselor to walk with us in this.
And to clarify, the Bible doesn't say you have to leave if there is infidelity, or if there is, but it gave the people at that time an out, so that the woman didn't get stoned, and so many other things. So
I think a lot of that, like we talked about on our last one, we were talking about the law of priority and stuff, but one of the other, it's a law of pursuit. And if we get complacent in that, especially with kids, and we got 4 girls, I love them, I love kids and everything, but in that season, especially when they're little, a lot of it is like, okay, go to work, come take care of the kids, I need to just relax. And when we do that, if we're not, another thing Driscoll says, you either pull heaven down or you're pulling hell up. But I talked about this in our last retreat. It's not even that. You either pull heaven down or hell will pull you down. You don't have to look for it. And as a guy, I sent Kristen a story the other day of this guy at Five Guys, who a woman came in and propositioned him to have sex and all this stuff and kept making all these things. And she was making a video and stuff. And he's like, I'm a Christian, I can't do that. And when I sent it to her, her reaction was, how does that happen? In the same thing, I can be sitting in I can be whatever, and, like, something will pop on my watch or my phone, and it's nothing I have looked or anything else. This stuff just pops up. And I'm sure you in the, like, a service industry and stuff, like, you'll have people to open the door and you're like, wow, what, you didn't want to get dressed today, or that was what you
knew I was coming.
And I've had that. And so when I say that to her, she doesn't understand that. But if we're not constantly in the Word and pulling God into it and working on this, Satan will take every opportunity. Oh, look at this. Look at this. 100%. Oh, here's this. And it's an easy way. And I'm not giving that as an out for guys, but, like, I don't think, like, have you seen those stupid billboards with the plastic surgery thing with the woman? And I'm like, oh, there she is again. And it's like, she's like, what are you talking about? Or we'll be watching the same thing. And I'll be like, did you see? And she's like, oh, no. Because we see different things. And 100%. It's just there. And we're inundated with it. So,
and culture will say, oh, that's because the guy is a pig or what, like, it's very easy for them to say that. But it is so crazy when we actually talk about it, when we actually talk about this, how men are visually stimulated.
Yep.
And he will show me an ad and he'll be like, look at that ad. And somewhere on the ad, there'll be a girl in like a bikini. But I've read the whole ad and I'm like, what's strange about this? What it's selling? What is
She's
there a
wearing
typo?
nothing.
He's like, the picture, and I'm like, oh, I didn't even look at the picture. Like, we literally are looking at the same thing and seeing two different things. And it's probably, that rose-colored glasses or the lens you see it through.
The pink and blue.
lens.
And then I don't know what we were listening to, but I still find it so fascinating that someone said that God did create men this way, so that when they would be off at war or away from their spouse, from their wife, they would have that memory of her that would keep them engaged. But in today's
world
driven like society
Fallen
of
world.
social I don't even know how nice to put it, those constant images are just overload for
I just
men.
had this conversation with another one of my buddies, and unless you are completely off of everything, sex sells, and everybody plays off of that.
Yep.
Oh yeah,
That's how the billboard you're driving.
Yeah, even
right?
now it is, and the things that didn't used to be on TV. We didn't even have the internet. We didn't have phones that had everything in our pocket, so you relied on the TV and stuff like that. Now it's everywhere. There's you can turn on the TV. You can
Super
go
Bowl
for a
halftime
ride.
show, or
You
know what I mean?
Anywhere, and it's there. And I think that's why working on this is so important.
Even more so,
because it's not even like you don't have to look for it. It'll find
it presents
you.
itself.
Yes.
Now on the other side of that, it's the same for women, but it's more a mental, emotional thing where, okay, well, if I'm not giving you attention, there will be somebody, if I don't give her attention, somebody will, and that's it. So we need to guard that.
Yes.
And we need to be pulling God down into our relationship to make sure we're headed towards him, because we can be all right as long as we want. And we have been in that. And it's like, we're really not all right. If we don't have God in the center, we're not all right.
Yeah. Well, and that's when we made the shift. And prior to that, we kind of had our own walks with God, which, we spend our own alone time in the Word, but we prioritize every single night as long as we're together. And then even when we're apart, we prioritize reading the Bible together every single night, to the point where even my 9-year-old, I was talking to one of my girlfriends. I was like, who's a newlywed? I was like, if I could give you any advice, my best advice would be spend time in the Word together. I was like, Mike and I, we read time in the Word together, apart and together. And my 9-year-old's like, every night. And I was like, I didn't even know, she noticed that.
Yeah. So cool.
Yeah. So after that, that's when, and God so tangibly showed up in that season, to the point where we were reading and talking, and I literally could feel him sitting on our bed with us. He so tangibly showed up for us in that season that like I said, it sounds so weird, but I'm like, it's like a reset button that our marriage needed.
And that was a gift, right? That was a gift, because how many people don't have something that makes them stop in their tracks, and then they keep going.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is. And even through all of our stuff, same thing. Those really, really hard times are what bring us together. And that's what makes us stronger. Yeah. And with us, that's when we started reading different things and doing different things. And I will tell you now, years after, it's all the same. And I was saying this to her the other day, I've read so many marriage books, both Christian and secular and stuff. It's all the same. There's no magic to it. The magic is you have to work at it, put the other person first, be pursuing each other every day. Whether you wake up in the morning and be like, I don't really like you today, but you have to. It's not that's the choice we make. We choose to love. It's a verb. Yes. It's not just it's not an emotion. It's a verb. Yeah.
So you guys read the Bible together every night. What else do you put in practice?
one of the biggest priorities on top, like other than reading the Bible together, is his Wednesday night men's group. To the point where like I really want to go and serve, because I serve in with the middle schoolers. Like I would really love to go and serve with the high schoolers, but it's on Wednesday nights, and we have 3 kids, and all of our babysitters are high schoolers that go to our church. So that is the other thing, is that we really prioritized Mike having that time with men, because like you said, like the man drives the household. He needed to be connected with other godly men.
Yeah, have accountability.
Yeah. That's that's one of the biggest parts. Is Meg moved into a season of forgiveness very fast, which was really great for me. Because I didn't. And even like right now, there's so much shame, and you know, you don't want to talk about it, and you don't. Why? You know, why talk about it? Because then you look like a schmuck. But
not if people are real, because we've all
and that's,
we're all broken,
and that's where we're at now. And I was having a conversation with somebody earlier at church, and he knows a little bit of the story, more of the story than I probably lead on to believe. But he goes, "When you had your first kid, like, were you ready?" Well, no. Well, what about your second? Well, no.
Never ready.
So yeah, right. Are you ever actually going to be ready to talk about it? And I'm like, well, yeah, you're right. No. The answer's no.
Yeah.
That's wise. That's wise. I like that.
And I was like chatting. So I'm like good friends with Jordan Bennett, because he's the youth pastor and we're the coordinator. So Jordan and I are pretty close. And I'm like telling him, like, I just can't wait for Mike to be ready, because I've been like waiting, like going at his pace, because like although there was lots of things that I did to again contribute to fostering that hole in our fence, like Mike is the offender, for you know, lack of better words. So I was like, okay, Mike, like when Mike's ready. So like over the summer, I was like, Mike, when you're ready, it'd be really cool to do a marriage group that has like this theme centered around it. He's like, yeah, that would be cool. We should talk to Rich. I'm like, right now, like today? And he's like, yeah, why not? And I was like, well, I just want to make sure like you're ready for it. And then like with this, I was like, hey, like Kristen and Kevin are doing this really cool podcast. Like we should like try that one day. He's like, yeah, like start a group chat with us. I was like, right now? And he's like, yeah, absolutely. So like using the same thing with our miscarriage, like I so openly talk about our miscarriage. I've been connected with so many incredible women who've walked through that season. Likewise, Mike has been connected with their husbands, because it's so different between the husband and the wife, that I was excited when he was ready to be able to step into a place to allow this chapter in our story to be like, to be a story of hope, to glorify God, because God was so in it with us, that I'm like, I can't wait to tell people how great and how cool and how awesome God is, and how he moved us, because he moved me to a place of forgiveness in literal days. Like it was literal days, to the point where like, I'll never forget our first Sunday back to church. Mike was a little bit of a mess. And I was telling him like, bad. Yeah, it was bad.
I was bad. It wasn't bad. I was bad.
He was in a rough place. And I like remember I was like rubbing his back. I was like, I forgive you and God forgives you. You need to forgive yourself.
Yes.
And that was days. Like everything came to light on Thursday. So Sunday was 4 days later. I was in a place of like, I have forgiven you and God's forgiven you. Now please forgive yourself.
It took me weeks. Going to the men's group. And I got talking with a couple close, you know, confidants, and he goes, and I'll never forget this. It was a couple weeks after, because I was still in the same spot. I'm like, this is like Groundhog's Day.
Yeah.
It just repeats and repeats and repeats. And I'm like, Meg's moving in a good direction. And I'm like, nope. Yeah. And he goes, so what did Jesus die for then? And I'm like, bro, stop being logical.
It's so good.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I don't think I would have gotten that anywhere else.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Men that have been around for, at that point, a year and a half. New guys come, new guys go. I never really spoke. A lot of people knew that I was in a hard spot.
Yeah.
Because I just literally sat there.
Yeah.
Didn't say a word, didn't do anything. And I'm like,
shut down.
Yeah, I'm shut down. And I'm like, man, I suck. you know?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And then, like I said, a couple of close buddies, we got talking, and he's like, so what did you die for then? Just answer me that. Just think about it.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't want to.
I don't
want
yeah,
to.
I'd rather just sulk, you know?
Yeah.
You know, so I'm like, okay, yeah, and it still pops up, the box still unlocks every once in a while, where I'm like, what an idiot, you know? What an idiot. But
that's the thing, right? We have to lean on each other because there's going to be times when we are all failing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I do terrible things to hurt you. You do terrible things to hurt me. And we need to forgive each other. Mm-hmm. And I'm guessing she's not perfect.
No, gosh, no.
So she's going to need your grace.
You're supposed to say yes.
Like, it's not just you.
I know.
Like,
I know.
It's all of us.
Yep.
Yeah, and that was good what he said, because that's something that we say, and I do say a lot. I mean, if we could do it on our own,
right.
we don't need God.
Yeah, we didn't need Jesus.
And that's the biggest thing. Mm-hmm. And we're just, what a scary place to be.
Yeah.
You know, what a scary, scary place to be. If I can do it on my own. And I think that's like one of the biggest things in marriage. Like, we've been trying that for the last 50 years or so. I mean, God's plan worked
for
thousands of
years.
I'm not 50 yet.
Don't date me.
But no, we've been, as a society, we've been doing it the last 50, 75 years. Marriage worked for a couple thousand years, and now people aren't even getting married. Yeah. And the ones that do get divorces or are miserable.
Yep.
We changed. It didn't change. We changed.
100%.
You know, we took him out of it, and it's like, no, we can't do it on our own.
And then even when we pass through that trial or forgiveness, whatever, like, we're not there, right?
No,
we're
it's
still,
always, you gotta do
there's going to be something else. We're still going to fail on something else. We're still, like, it's just continual.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and that was like the big thing for Mike, like when we were in therapy, like he's like, and I was a failure in this and a failure in this and a failure. I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize he felt like he was failing in so many places. Yeah. And I was just like, you're not a failure. Like, I always like tell the kids, like, you made a poor choice, but that doesn't make you a bad kid.
Right.
Like, you made a choice that wasn't wise, but that doesn't mean that you're a failure. That doesn't mean that you're not a good husband. Like, it just means you're human. Yeah, you're human, and you made a choice that hurts. And all right, let's go. Let's move on. Let's do all the work to manage the feelings.
We are messy. Maybe we should just rename the podcast We Are Messy. Messy people.
Sure are.
But I think that's good too, Mike, that as a guy, I think that's where a lot of guys live, though. Mm-hmm. Like, we will make a mistake, and maybe it's a big one, maybe it's a little one, but that's in our head.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like, well, I already screwed up, so what? I can do whatever I want. I'll never be. And then you get the devil in there saying, no, you're not good enough. You're wrong. You're not good enough for her. You're not good enough for whatever it is.
Well, he sees it.
And it's just like, we're just going, and it just snowballs, because it's like, I've screwed this up. Well, now I'm going to screw this up and this up.
100%.
And it's in our mind.
Yeah.
It's a choice we make that's like, we're listening to these voices. And that's why, like, the men's group and stuff, it's so good, because I think the biggest thing as guys, we're alienate ourselves.
Oh, 100%.
Like,
I
we don't.
So good at it.
It's not like we're going to walk in a room and say, hey, I did this, or I feel really bad about this, or, you know, we don't. Whereas women will. They'll be like, oh.
100%.
Yes.
But guys, we don't do that. So having that atmosphere that we can
analyze
walk in.
everything about it.
Everything.
Yeah, and we don't want to. We may admit to it, but we don't want to talk about why. It's like, oh, we did that, you know.
Yeah.
So I don't know what study it was in, but it was talking about the guys versus the girls, and like when I come home from a men's group or come home from a Bandits game or whatever, you know, I got band season tickets. I love going, and it's just, oh, what'd you and so talk about? Work stuff. Yeah, or you know, vice versa. She'll come home. Oh, did you guys have a good time? Didn't even ask what they talked about. Yeah, we talked about this and this and this and this and this and this and this.
Welcome to my world.
I need to know all the details.
Right.
Yes.
And it's like pulling teeth where I'm like, just tell me what he said.
Yeah.
I know.
I don't remember.
So you just sat there and stared at each other?
I said that
like,
to him. I'm like, I know you didn't just sit there and stare at a wall. He's like, well, no, we talked. I'm like, about what? What did you talk about?
Right.
And when mom tells you something, and then she'll be like later, she's like, well, I told your husband, didn't he tell you? And I'm like,
No.
No, it wasn't an important detail.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It didn't really matter.
Right.
Even if it actually is an important detail.
Mm-hmm.
Well, oh, so-and-so's pregnant. Oh, how far along? I don't know.
Yeah.
They're going to have a baby.
Oh my
Right.
gosh, yes.
I don't know. Around the same time as, so...
9 months
Typical.
after they conceived.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Two of my employees, both of them...
Oh yeah,
both,
this was just a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, I'm not going to mention names because I don't know if it's out, but
yeah.
but both of them are having kids around the exact same time, and they both work for me. So I was like, oh yeah, so and so's wife's pregnant, and so and so's wife's pregnant. She's like, oh, how far along? That's so cool, blah blah blah, because she knows them as well. And I was like, I don't know.
Nothing.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
That wasn't important. All I heard was they're pregnant. Cool, congratulations.
Oh, you know what? That's similar to teenagers.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is.
I just realized.
We're making connections between men and teenagers.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And teenagers.
So funny.
But I think the other side of that, I've been on the other side where it's like, she'll ask, oh, somebody had a baby. Well, what did they have?
A baby.
A baby?
Yeah.
How big? Baby size? I don't know, because it does.
Yeah,
And they
baby
may
size.
very well have said it, but it didn't matter, you know? It's
Right.
like, that's not me.
Right.
I don't care. So, I mean, and I think that's something guys have to work on. And that is a Jimmy Evans thing. I know he talks about it in Four Laws of Love and Marriage on a Rock and stuff, where he talks about that, you know, that need. Like, she needs to
Communicate, yeah.
know
Yeah.
the stuff we don't need to know. So,
Yeah.
and he also says, you know, just at that time, it won't kill you.
Sit there for 20
To
minutes
sit
every
there
day.
and just like have that first initial, okay, you can ask me anything you want. I'll just sit here and listen. You won't die from it. Even though you,
Right.
as a guy, you may feel like you will. You
But
really,
you'll be
really
fine.
won't. And the more
Yeah.
often you do it, the easier it becomes for you,
Yep.
and the less questions they actually ask,
Hmm.
because they'll like get their fill of it, you know.
Learn something new every day.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
But
Now
that,
I know the tricks.
yeah,
Yeah.
that is a good trick. So, what would you guys say is your number one secret sauce that you have?
Intentionality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That word. We got talking. Me and two or three other guys, and they're like, you know, what's the one word that's been smacking you in the mouth this last couple of months? And I was like, intentionality.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not intentional about each other's time, if you're not intentional about being in the Word, if you're not intentional about chasing after God, if you're not intentional about XYZ, whatever that
Telling
XYZ
your
is,
story.
telling
Yeah.
your story, you know,
Mm-hmm.
if that intentionality isn't there, if you're not intentional about looking for the opportunities to grow, because that's an uncomfortable spot in your life,
Mhm.
how do you grow? And it's not by being comfortable.
Yeah.
That's how I didn't grow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how all this came about.
Yeah.
It's the intentionality behind it. God wants us to chase after him.
Mhm.
If you're not, what are you doing? You're just stagnant.
Yeah.
Making
just
room
sitting there.
for holes.
You're making you're
Oh,
making
that's
room for
good.
holes. And that was ultimately my biggest bounce back, is that I was like, okay, well, I'm going to start reading more. I'm going to start doing this
Yeah.
and actually doing it, and actually being
And actually doing it.
intentional about it, and just doing the dang thing, because if you're not doing it, then you're not doing it at all. And you can't build a habit if you don't start the habit.
Yeah.
So
And that was cool. He did this last round of Fight Club, and they did like an hour class, and it was like draw a line where you were saved. And he drew a line, and then there was like another exercise to draw a secondary line.
so
Yeah.
so that that hit me hard too. So I got baptized in 2019,
Mhm.
right? 2019, and then all this happened, and then I got re-energized. So it's like, okay, yeah, I got baptized. I knew what it was about. I knew the feeling. It was awesome, but I wasn't filled with the Spirit at that point.
Right.
I wasn't.
Right.
And then all this happened, and I reevaluated everything, and I'm like, this is that fire that she had 5 years
Mhm.
prior.
Yes.
And I was like, just get away from me for a little while. And I was like, okay,
Should've
here it
listened
is.
then.
Here it is.
Yeah.
And that was the biggest bounce back, was
Yeah.
being intentional and just chasing. And it's not only that chase after God, but it's the chase after Meg as well. Chase
Yeah.
after the spouse.
And we got some really great advice because we were linked with another couple who had struggled with infidelity in their marriage. And the husband had said, you know, like before you even start your day, just like meet in the kitchen, like, hey, good morning. How can I pray for you today? Like, what's going on for you today that like I can be intentional about praying for you? And there's been times where like we'll skip over that and Mike will text me, be like, hey, I just want to let you know I'm praying for you today. So definitely that intentionality of really just not just like walking the walk, not just talking the talk, but walking the walk of like, God really is the center of our marriage and we're being intentional about putting him there and intentional about keeping him there. So especially with like my love language is quality times and the way he shows love is through acts. Like you cannot get more separated than that. And he's like, I'm working extra I'm working extra hours to provide more for the family because you want to take the kids to Disney. And I'm like, just sit on the couch with me and talk to me. So it's being intentional too about speaking each other's love languages as well.
Disney is expensive.
I know. And we haven't taken the kids there because it's expensive.
And that's okay.
I know.
They'll survive.
I know.
I will say the good thing about the love languages, 25 years in, they change. Like as time, not 100%, like, but you can see them kind of shift and morph in seasons and stuff like that.
I do agree. And I think also it's because we change toward each other.
Absolutely.
And when I know that you're doing something that's showing love, then I actually am receiving it that way too, because I know that your meeting was through love.
Yeah.
You know, we know each other better.
Yeah. And I think that's it, the intentional thing. And I think the good thing about marriage is, you know, the one quote that I've been married 15 years to 15 different women because they do change, but that's what keeps it interesting. That's what keeps that pursuit interesting. Because let me tell you what, a young woman to a mom to like teenagers to like those hormones change and things change and like they change, you know, and as the seasons in life go by. But it's that thing that if we are intentional about pursuing, that's a good thing because like you're like dating, like we do date night every Friday. It's like I'm dating someone different than I was last year or the year before, definitely 10 years ago.
Right.
You know, but it's good. It keeps it interesting. And, you know, that's one of those things that's good about God. We do change and we grow. Yeah. And we get to do it together.
Yep. And thank God for seasons.
Yeah.
The seasons pass.
Yes.
They sure do.
I still say the absolute best parenting advice that I ever got when I had the monster baby, when Skylar was screaming and right? No, it's that someone said to me, this actually will pass. Yeah. Because you are up at night or whatever the season is that you're in, or they're not sleeping or they're not napping or they're not whatever. And you feel like this is just gonna be your life forever. Like this, like that's how you feel. So it does pass. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's they're not stuff. Up at night screaming anymore.
I mean they are, but they're not like it's different screaming.
Go to bed.
It's different screaming. Yeah, please go to bed. Be quiet.
Yeah, ours are now potty calls. The 3-year-old.
Oh,
that's funny.
Yeah.
I have to go potty.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Instead of just going to the bed or coming up down to our room, she's screaming. Yeah.
Nice.
Well, you guys, I am so happy that you reached out to tell your story. I love it.
Yeah.
You don't have more questions? Last time you had all these questions.
Well, I was going to say, do you guys mind if we do some fun questions?
Sure.
What you got?
All right.
What was that crazy when you asked that Leisha was talking about the naked people in the antique store? That was the best one. I'm still like...
I don't know.
I don't remember. We're all looking at Leisha like, what are you talking about?
All right, but I have a fun one, though. All right, who do we go with first? We're gonna go. No, we're gonna go with Mike first because
that's what you get.
because this one I don't know. Maybe this will be funnier for you, but maybe not. What is your most embarrassing childhood story?
Oh gosh, that's a hard one because I don't remember a lot of my childhood.
Drama.
Yeah.
Okay, then you can say embarrassing story of any age.
Oh, I just told it. I just told it right here.
There you go.
I honestly, that is probably the most embarrassing story I have.
Yeah?
Yeah, 100%.
I felt like
100%.
your pants were going to fall down as you were walking down an escalator.
Listen, why don't you tell, I think it's embarrassing what you still have in your calf.
Uh-oh.
So this wasn't really a thing out in public.
Now
It is now. There are no rules here.
So
it all stays
yeah.
in this
Yeah.
area.
In this
So-
area, it goes nowhere
Right,
else.
right here.
remember we talked about that guy who I've known for like 30 years?
Mhm.
Well, we used to have BB gun wars.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, both metal BBs and plastic BBs.
Yeah.
So we
Oh.
started out with the metal BBs.
Uh-huh.
Well, I still have a BB stuck in my leg. It's been 30-something years now.
Yeah.
And,
Oh, like your actual calf,
Oh,
like
yeah,
your
yeah.
calf.
Actual
Yeah,
calf
it
muscle.
happens.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
you
can
Like
feel
in your
it.
body.
You can see it.
Yeah,
It
it still
happens.
sticks through, and you can feel it.
Yeah.
Are you?
It's weird. It doesn't bother me at all.
But it's probably like
It's-
leaking.
No,
You
no,
probably
no.
should have it
It's all
removed.
good.
Your
It's by
part of
now it
system.
would have.
It's a part of my story.
Oh my god.
So he grew up normal. See.
Yeah.
He grew
we-
up normal.
I have a scar right here from a bottle rocket that
Oh, here we
Oh.
go.
shot me.
Okay.
Yeah, you used to use put snowballs. And
They're
shoot
gonna
bottle
compare
rockets
scars.
and-
Listen.
Oh, yeah.
No, there's a lot of good stories like that too. We moved on to plastic BBs, and and we still didn't get face masks.
No.
No. So we were in his basement playing BB gun war in the basement, and he's like, "Hold on, I'm gonna shut this light off." And as he popped up to shut the light off, I shot him in the corner of the eye.
Oh.
Thank God, he didn't lose his eye, which was great.
That's so great.
But then,
I may have caused someone to lose an eye.
oh gosh.
Yeah, that's actually true.
Yeah. So that's phenomenal. So like a week later, we were playing upstairs in his mom's apartment. They grew up in an apartment. And she's like my mom. So it was like, do your thing, guys. If you're going to get in trouble, I would get beat with a wooden spoon also, which
Yeah.
she did give Meg a wooden spoon for Christmas one year.
And I didn't get
And
it.
she didn't get it.
Aw.
I was like, this is really pretty and really odd. And Mike's like, let me tell you what she meant with this.
Yeah.
I'm like,
But he shot a BB. It hit the corner of the keyhole, because you remember the old skeleton keyholes
Mhm.
Yeah.
that were passed through. Hit the corner, broke, and actually hit me right here on,
Oh my
on the
gosh.
inner side of my eye.
mhm.
So he kind of got me back.
Yeah. You're even.
But she's still vacuuming up BBs to this day.
Nice.
And
That's
they
awesome.
are still like super tight friends.
Oh yeah, we
Like,
Oh,
this
I love that.
stories he
We
tells me, I'm like,
fought
why are you
before,
guys
like,
still friends?
fist fights,
Like,
the whole
yeah.
night. Yeah, on
Yeah.
the front lawn,
Nice.
and yeah, it was
Yeah.
it was a long history. But we were very good friends still.
Yes.
We don't see each other very often because he lives in
But
Niagara
that's
Falls.
okay.
I live in Boston.
Oh,
yeah.
But we still talk probably once a week.
Yeah.
And I just
Sweet.
found out he just got engaged, so I'm super excited
Yay.
for him.
That's
So
awesome.
exciting.
I
Yeah.
love
That's
that.
awesome.
I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's probably your most
Yeah.
embarrassing story, I think.
I guess so, yeah.
All right,
Nice.
that's good. And
I'm
it was
curious
your-
about your story, though, Kev.
Go ahead,
That's
real quick, real quick.
So we were little, and my grandmother used to have this farm. It was up in the country, it was up in the Shenandoah Valley. And me and all my cousins would go there and stuff. And it was me and my two cousins. And one is like a year older than me. And then Sammy is 3 years older than us, I think, his older brother. And we were feeding the horses, and I stabbed him in the eye with a pitchfork. David in the eye with a pitchfork.
And I don't even know how
And
to
this
get there.
was-
We were
this
feeding the
was
horses. So I
nice.
stabbed him in the eye with a
Crazed
Okay, so-
over
there's
this.
hold on. So this was like
How did we get here?
19... I'm going to say 1978.
oh my
So
gosh.
back then, the closest hospital was literally an hour away. Yeah, this is like back in the mountains in the Shenandoah Valley, and so seriously, and so it was. I don't even remember. And the barn was like down the hill. You've been to the house, but the barn set down the hill, and so it's just me, Sammy, and David, and like I said, I probably was maybe I was 4. No, I was 7. So I was either 3 or 4. So I mean, David was either 4 or 5, and Sammy was probably maybe 8.
All right, you poked him. This happened when you were like
Yeah, we
3
were
or
little.
4.
We were little. And
Things
so
happen.
they went to the hospital. And
Crazy.
Why'd you have a
finally, he
pitchfork?
was all. I mean, we were so far.
Here,
What
3,
else?
4-year-olds go play with pitchforks.
Bottom
There's
line.
lots
Be
of
fine.
details.
Bottom line, I was 10-ish, 9, 10. He got me back. We were at his house, and I was on a skateboard, and I knocked my 2 front teeth out somehow.
Mhm.
And yeah, so I
However,
mean, he
you
lost
do
an
have
eye.
teeth.
I lost 2 front teeth. I mean, it all worked out in the end.
His
We're
eye
still
did not
cousins,
grow
it's all-
back.
But I mean, he's got an eye.
He's got an eye.
So,
It's
I mean,
glass.
we're
Yeah.
boys. Things happened,
I
and
hear
I
ya.
mean, you just never
I
knew
hear
what was
ya.
going to happen.
Yep.
You know.
All right.
So-
Do you have an embarrassing story for us?
I don't know. Do I have an embarrassing story?
Not really. Well, yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Which one?
When you were breastfeeding Amelia.
Oh my gosh.
And Isaiah decided to take a naked run.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes. So I was
Take a naked run.
Yeah.
It was like we had Amelia. So we moved into the house that we're in now, and then 5 days later we had Amelia.
Oh,
So Amelia was little.
Very
I was
stressful
nursing.
time.
Very stressful
For me,
time.
not for her. For me.
I was okay. So I was nursing Amelia and Isaiah. There's only 15, 16 months between the two of them.
Right.
So he's like 16 months old and I'm nursing Amelia, and he goes over to the door and it's dead bolted and he's pulling on the handle. I was like, buddy, don't pull on the handle. Like, you could break it, whatever. And I'm not thinking that my 1.5-year-old can undead bolt the door and leave, but he did. He undead bolted it and then opens the door, and I'm like in the middle of nursing and I'm home by myself, like with my kids. So like I am just out for everybody to see because I'm home alone. And so I like literally like put my infant on the ground. Isaiah's in, I'm like, these neighbors are gonna think we're nuts. Isaiah's in a diaper running towards the street, and I'm like putting my shirt, like pulling my tank top back up over, and like thankfully there was a nice gentleman who was walking his dog who stopped Isaiah from running in the road. But I'm like, I'm so sorry.
That's
oh my
awesome.
god!
So I'm like putting my
Yeah.
shirt up and like pulling like the top one down, and I'm like
That's
pulling
awesome.
Isaiah. And I'm walking back in the house, and he's like, I was running real fast. I was like,
Proud
you
of
sure
himself.
were, dude. Don't you do that again.
Mind you, this
Yeah.
wasn't the first time.
No. Oh my gosh.
The first time we were moving. So this
Mhm.
was a couple weeks prior.
Yeah. I was
And,
super pregnant.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah. Very pregnant.
Yep.
So I had a fish tank.
Yep.
That I moved the whole. She was giving Isaiah a bath,
Mm-hmm.
and I moved the whole fish tank out of the way of the front door because it was blocked. We never used the front door. We always used the back door at the old house. And
This much room between the wall and the fish
Yeah.
tank.
so Isaiah bolts out. Me and my buddy Chris are downstairs grabbing the dryer,
Oh,
and all of a sudden I hear her start yelling, and I'm like, "It's baby time! It's baby time!"
Everybody thought my water
Yep.
broke.
So I run up and I run to the bathroom because that's where she was.
And I'm flustered,
And-
having absolutely no words. I'm like, Isaiah, Isaiah, Isaiah.
So I go running outside. He's on the wicker love
Chair.
seat,
Butt
naked.
Oh, jeez.
On the front porch, I was like, thank God we're moving.
Yes.
So mind you, my heart's going a mile a minute because I think she's in labor,
Mhm.
and I had no idea because that was my biggest fear with moving was
right
she's
in the
gonna-
middle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm not going to be able to get out of the old house because we're going to have a baby, and this
Yeah.
everything's going to happen all at once. And God's like, yeah, just hold my beer.
He's like, watch this kid, watch him. He's gonna run
Yeah.
naked through the.
It was
He
fun.
pushes a button. He's like, "Watch this."
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was fun.
We,
That's awesome.
that which reminds me of we had this little dog
Oh,
when I was pregnant with
that's what it reminds you of.
Trinity. Yes, because
Kids are like dogs.
this little dog that
This
my
dog was
2-year-old would open the door and the dog would fly out the door like
Oh.
Every time.
and we got this dog from the
time.
SPCA, and the reason that it was a min pin.
Yep.
Mhm.
And it was
Sure.
cute and little, and apparently everybody wanted it. So like the morning, do you remember the morning that it was up for adoption? Like it was on the like there was a line to get this dog. So somehow we got it, which we shouldn't have because the thing said kept like escaping. And we're
And
like,
it did.
what, how did? But this dog like the door and it doesn't just escape like and stay
Oh,
there. It just
blocks.
ran.
That's
Like
great.
so I had
Little time gone.
I had a 2-year-old, a 4-year-old, and I was pregnant. Now, when I was pregnant with number 3,
Oh, you're big.
I was huge, like massively huge. Like for a full month before my due date, people would look at me and go, "Are you still pregnant?" And I'd be
like,
like,
yes, I am, jerk.
"Yes," and I'm still going to be pregnant for another month. So shh. Like I was like out to here. It was just miserable.
Every Sunday, Jerry's wife Edie would be like, "Oh, you're still pregnant."
No.
To Kristen, and she would.
Can we stop
Would-
talking about
Yep.
it, please?
Like yeah, there was no, and at church everyone would ask me that, but so and it was summertime and it was very hot and it was August because Trinity was born in September, and so Tabby would open the side door and Sasha would go flying, and I was pregnant. So I was this crazy pregnant woman with running through the neighborhood after this dog. So when you said you were very pregnant and he ran away, I was like, all I could think of was me chasing this stupid dog.
That dog was awful.
Like, pregnant out to wherever.
That dog went back to the SPCA. It's like, it's yours.
Yeah, we did not keep the dog.
No
But
way.
don't worry, I'm sure it was well loved and adopted by all these people that wanted it, that
Locked
were much
away
better
in a cage.
than 2 tiny toddlers and a crazy pregnant woman that the dog flew.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that it reminded me of, you said Isaiah kept running outside naked. Is one of our daughters. Now I can't tell the story.
That was a long time ago, right? Or was this recent?
No.
Maybe.
she would go outside and like we had this what is it? What stone bench?
It's in the backyard.
Yeah. But if it wasn't on its pedestal, the pedestal was open. Like it was a like there was
It looked like 2 logs, tree stumps in this.
But it
it's all
wasn't
stone.
solid. Anyway, so it was basically like a round.
I would take the top off in the winter and maybe put it back sometimes.
So she would go outside, take her clothes off, and poop in it.
Phenomenal.
That's amazing.
She was like 2,
That's
yeah.
great.
Also, so she was probably doing that while I was chasing the dog through the neighborhood. And so basically, anyone who judges a mom of little kids, or
has never
like,
had little kids.
just
No.
don't.
Yes.
Just it's
Mhm.
chaos.
It's
and just know it'll be
fun.
chaos.
Yeah.
Chaos is a good word for it, but it's
Yeah.
fun chaos.
Yeah,
I
it is.
agree with that.
You never
Yeah.
know.
Right.
You
So many
never
stories.
know.
Right.
So
Yeah.
many
So
stories.
yes.
So
That's
many,
So many
stories.
stories,
Okay,
yeah.
so another question, and
Okay.
we'll. Okay. Oh, here's a really good one.
Oh.
What is the weirdest thing you've ever eaten?
Ooh, that could be bad.
When I was in
It's just in
Germany,
Afghanistan. Oh, okay.
when I was in Germany, I forget what it was, but it was a mix between like snail and something else. But it was like a delicacy, and because when I would go to places, I'd be like, what is, like, I want to try the local food. So I would ask like a local person. So I asked the server, I was like, what is it that, like, if so let's say for all intents and purposes, I'm an American visitor. I'm not, I'm
Accent
local,
didn't
I
give it away.
swear. Yeah, I'm not, I swear. But let's just say that I am. What would you say, like, if you had to, because, like, you come to Buffalo, you're like, you got to try the wings, you got to try the pizza. I'm like, what would you say for German? And they said this word in German that my ancestors would roll over because I'm mostly German. And they were like, yeah, you got to try this. And I was like, okay. They're like, do you want to know what it is? I was like, no, just put it in front of me. That was my first mistake.
And you asked
Never.
after you ate it?
I tried it and I was like, there's nothing good about this. So the server came back. He goes, how did you like it? I'm like, I hated it. What was it? And he was like, it was snail and something else. I was like, I should have asked.
You like that nasty
Escargot, I do.
Ugh.
Yeah. No, it was not escargot.
See,
it was
worse
like,
than that.
it had like, raw clam. It had like a
Oh.
raw clam consistency.
I haven't had
with
raw
like,
clams.
yeah, no, it's like a big booger.
It's a German booger.
Like a big German booger on a plate.
It would be
Oh.
really funny if Mike was like, "Oh, that's funny. My weirdest thing is a big booger."
That's where Isaiah gets it from.
Oh.
Yeah.
So funny.
Yeah,
He
so
does
that's-
not eat boogers, for the record.
No, he doesn't. He just puts them on the walls.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Recycling.
But yeah.
This is
Recycling.
basically, we should rename this episode "How to Embarrass Your Kids," like, because basically that's half of our discussion.
Yeah.
All right, so what's yours?
Oh gosh. I don't really have a weird thing. The most uncommon thing would be kangaroo.
Mhm.
Oh,
I spent a little time
that is
over in
weird.
Australia,
Yeah,
so that was
those
really the
things
only
are
thing.
scary. You watch those
I got
videos;
a whole
those things are
story
scary.
about that too.
Listen.
I'll watch them on YouTube. They'll be fighting.
Gosh.
Yeah. They're like just jacked.
Listen, okay.
And
So-
Mike decided with all his marine buddies.
So listen.
Oh.
So,
He's like,
all
"See
right,
this guy?
we'll get into
Kangaroo."
that. We'll get into that here. Okay, so we're in Australia on a training mission. We're doing like war games with the Australian Army. This is back in 2007, I think it was, and we had a little time to roam. Bad idea.
Don't leave Marines with
yeah,
idle hands.
Yeah.
Right.
If we can find something to get in trouble with, we did.
Yes.
And we did. So a buddy of mine points out, he's like, hey, there's a hill over there and there's a couple kangaroos up there. Like, let's go check it out. And we're like,
That's a great
Yep.
idea.
Great idea.
Great idea.
Yes, we're
Or
doing
have a
this.
koala too. They're
Yeah.
nice and cuddly.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we're doing this. So the hill's not very big. So another buddy of mine goes, let's just surround the hill and just go up because it's got to go somewhere. Somebody will get
So
close
let's
to
Nice
this.
surround
and
this
friendly.
incredibly
Yeah.
muscular,
Nice and
violent
friendly.
animal.
Well,
And make
this
him
is great.
feel really
Confined.
Yes.
Yeah, this
It's
is a great idea.
2007. There's not a lot of internet going on yet. You don't know all these YouTube videos, so we just kind of surround and go up the hill. Well, then we realized how big these things actually were, and we turned and started running like scared ants down the hill.
And there was a Joey. So
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah. Mama was very
Not
protective.
playing.
yes, yeah.
So did it run after you?
So I don't even remember. I didn't turn back to look. I'm like, the slowest guy's the one that's getting screwed now. So
I just
Leaving
gotta be
Sodom
faster
and
than-
Gomorrah. I'm
Yeah.
not going to be Lot's wife.
Nope. Nope, I'm out of here. So we started running down, and we just kept running. Like a bunch of us just got into a group and just kept running for a little bit, and then one of the guys looked back and he's like, "Yeah, they're gone. They're gone." I'm like, "Okay, good." So we all turn around and now we're joking about it because like nobody got seriously injured. Thank God.
Except the guy you left behind.
Even
We
he
don't
came
need
with
little
us.
Tim.
Even he came with us.
He's a little guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a crazy time. And then we ended up going. It was like our last night there. We ended up going to the casino. I ended up winning some money, and I ended up buying dinner. And that's when I had kangaroo, and it was kangaroo and gator and something else. It was like a 3-course kind of.
Wait, that was the same night?
Yeah.
So
No, different night.
okay.
Different night.
So like the night does end with
Fresh
eating
kill.
the kangaroo.
Fresh kill.
Fresh kill. I got the caber out. No. I could have had a really cool story.
I've had kangaroo jerky, and I think
Really?
like sticks and
I
stuff.
feel
But
like
I've
it
never
would be
had
so
kangaroo.
tough because they're so muscular.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
not too bad.
That's
I
like
don't know.
gator.
Well, like-
Gators.
Gators, yeah.
Gator's good.
Good.
Mm-hmm.
Bison doesn't have a lot of fat in it either,
No,
right?
yeah, they're
and
really
that's
lean.
really
I like it,
good.
yeah.
I do
Yeah.
too. With
Yeah.
the burgers, like when you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
all right, guys, this was so fun,
Yeah, it
and
was.
I'm actually super excited that you guys said you'll come back. Now you're
Heck
committed.
Yeah, now we're
100%.
committed. Yeah, this
I
is
love
fun.
that. That'll be great.
Yeah,
This
is
is
fun.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
All right, well, let's say goodbye, and
All right.
till next time.
Till next week.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye, friends.